Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 Stoughton School Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded on SMAC for future viewing. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We begin this evening with the school committee reorganization. May I have a motion or nomination for chair of the school committee?
I'd like to move to nominate Catherine Weiss as chair of the school committee.
Do we have a second?
I second the nomination.
Do we have any other nominations for chair of school committee? Any discussion on the nominations? We have one nomination. It's been seconded for Catherine Weiss. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say I think Catherine has shown a lot of commitment and interest in the role or in the responsibilities that would come with being chair, and I think that she'd be a great fit and would be excited for her leadership in this role.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Any further discussion? All right, I'd like to call a vote. All those in favor of Catherine Weiss as chair. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Fabienne.
Aye.
Aye.
Armando?
Aye.
Lindsay? So moved, unanimous. So Catherine, you're the new chair of the Stoughton School Committee, and you get the gavel.
I get to hold it. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Dr. Rob, committee. I would like to have a motion for vice chair, a nomination for vice chair.
I move to nominate Fabienne Francois Morissette as vice chair.
Second. Do we have any other nominations? Any discussions?
I feel that Fabienne is really capable of fulfilling the chair responsibilities as needed and definitely is stepping in as vice chair, so would be excited for your vice leadership.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I second that. All right, all in favor? Let's do a roll call vote. Fabienne? Aye.
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 All right, congratulations, Fabienne. You are now vice chair. Right. Our second item on our agenda is public comment, and do we have our sign-up sheet is over there. Sorry, someone take a week. Oh, we have nobody for public comment. All right, since blank. All right, since we have no one for no public comment tonight, let's move on to item number 3, the superintendent update. Dr. Rob, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss and members of the committee. I just have one update for the committee. I'd like to invite everybody to our health and wellness fair tomorrow for grades 6 through 12. The Stoughton Public Schools have partnered with OASIS to offer our first health and wellness fair tomorrow, April 12th, from 3 to 7 at Stoughton High School. The fair is open to all students in grades 6 through 12 and their parent and guardian or caring adult. There will be over 20 different organizations and vendors who will be available and sharing important and helpful information about a variety of topics, including mental health resources, substance misuse prevention, the art of coping, mediating conflict, how to help a friend, student bereavement and grief, tobacco and vaping cessation, nutrition, self-defense, and healthy physical activities like yoga. Students will be able to try completing a variety of activities while wearing the fatal vision goggles, which stimulate the harmful effects of marijuana or alcohol. There are a variety of presentations happening throughout the evening, and at 5:30, we have our keynote speaker, Dr. Kilmer, who will present on teens and drugs. What's the big deal? Stoughton High School students can earn attendance buybacks for attending and completing a variety of the activities, while middle school students may earn student recognition cards and special prizes. Seniors who participate in all activities will earn up to $10 off the cost of their prom ticket. You don't want to miss this event, and so we're looking forward to our first ever wellness fair at the high school tomorrow night from 3 to 7.
Thank you very much.
That's it, thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 4 on the agenda. Our student advisory committee representative was unable to attend, but we have Sarah Horner here. She is the senior advisory committee representative. Do you have any updates for us, please, Sarah?
So we're trying to work on one more fundraiser to close out the year. Every year, we partner with a pretzel company, so we get like flavored pretzels you've probably seen, like the Reese's ones, like the sprinkle ones. So we're gonna try to do that again this year. And we're also looking for one more event to close out our school year as well. so like a field day or a car wash, something like that.
Any other updates, any questions for our senior advisory? If I know you were put on at the last minute. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to new business. The first item on our agenda was the Mass Certificate of Academic Excellence. And my understanding is that is rescheduled for our next meeting on the 25th because the family wasn't able to attend. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so we'll see him next time, or see that person next time. Moving on to the next item is handbooks. We have presentations from each of the schools. I will begin with the elementary schools with Kathleen Monahan. Thank you.
So if I may say one or two words
Sure.
before Mrs. Monahan begins. All five of our elementary principals work together on this handbook. All five of our elementary principals work together on this handbook, and we asked Mrs. Monahan to present this evening, but it's the work of the administrative team.
Thank you. I was going to say just that.
Oh,
So I-
sorry.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. So thank you. For those that don't know me, I'm Katie Monahan. I'm the principal at the Wilkins Elementary School. I'm going to just quickly go over the few things that we updated, and we made a few additions. The updates were to the administrative staff, the civil rights representatives, and the school committee members. We also updated the bullying prevention and the residency per the policies from the school committee. A few of the updates that we have, more additions per se, we took the device in school wording from the OMS handbook and we added it to ours. We also took the graffiti and defacement of school property wording from OMS and we added it into our elementary handbook. And then we just referenced the Stoughton High School Code of Conduct in the event that we ever need to refer to it if there's any kind of discipline action at the elementary level. Other than that, everything is exactly the same as last year. Any questions?
Any questions about the handbook from the committee?
Okay.
And we are moving to a vote
I
to
would-
approve these tonight?
Yes,
All
yeah,
right.
please.
Could I have a motion to approve the Stoughton Elementary School Student and Parent Handbook for 2023-2024?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Fabian?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you. All set. Thank you for all of your hard work to you and to the other elementary school principals. Next up, we have the O'Donnell Middle School, Matt Colantonio.
Good evening. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Good. Thanks for having me. So you have a copy of the proposed draft for next year's student and parent handbook for the O'Donnell Middle School, and then a summary of updates and revisions in the memo. Not a lot of updates and revisions. Wasn't a huge overhaul year. Couple of minor updates, and then probably one relatively significant update that I think will be echoed in Ms. Miller's presentation. So I'll just kind of take you through it. Care of technology, we really added just a little bit of language about student and family responsibility for repairs and replacement. This is particularly for Chromebooks. There is a contract and a user agreement that students and families sign. And as you can imagine, 813 Chromebooks all day, every day, a little wear and tear on those things. So we're trying to hold students and maybe families accountable for what we're describing as excessive carelessness. We added that to like deliberate damage, which has always kind of been in there. So that's just a quick update there. The dress code really stayed intact. We removed what I'm going to say was a sort of a reaction to COVID this year. We put pajamas and sleepwear specifically in the handbook. We wanted to just kind of say, hey, we're back to school, COVID's over. We want you to dress properly for school. And we've just found that, you know, now that we've had a whole year under our belt removed from COVID, we really don't need to put that in specifically. So we removed pajamas and sleepwear and specifically from the dress code. Vaping devices, we kind of evolved there as well. I think when vaping devices first came on the scene at OMS, we really treated every vaping device as if it were drug paraphernalia vaping devices. If you are not aware, have the ability, the capacity to carry with them illegal substances as much as nicotine. Most teenagers, it's nicotine that's in there. It's not illegal substances, and so we've just made room in the handbook for both types of devices. If a student has a device with nicotine, we're treating it as obviously an unauthorized item, but not drug paraphernalia if it's not being used as drug paraphernalia. And so there's some strong consequences either way, but drug paraphernalia is really being treated as a type 4 offense, possession of drugs on school grounds. If and when that would ever to happen, it would be the most serious thing, one of the most serious things that you could do. Possession of an empty vaping device or a vaping device with just nicotine is still being treated seriously, just not as if it were possession of drugs, because it really isn't. The disciplinary due process language surrounding short-term suspensions, long-term suspensions, that language is highlighted in the copy of the handbook that you were provided this evening. That's really just been updated to reflect the updates in Mass General laws around those things. And so we had some kind of outdated language about appeals to the principal and appeals to the superintendent under some circumstances. They've literally just been updated to reflect Mass General laws. And so that's in there. That's probably the most substantial update, I would say. And then the offense category table, and I'm noticing that your copy doesn't have pages, but it's this guy right here. This is a page that I refer to a lot with students. We just needed to update some of that language for, we still had iPod in there. Kids don't use iPods anymore. You know, we need to keep up with the times in our handbook. We had to put a smartwatch in. If students use a smartwatch-like phone, we put that in there. And we made sure that our language around restorative consequences are in there, particularly as a first or second offense for things that are deemed less serious. We wanted to make sure we're not suspending on the first offense. We're really not supposed to be doing that anymore. That was probably the most substantial update to Mass General laws around student discipline in the last year. And then there's a couple of policies that have been updated, but those are your policies, so I probably don't need to update you about them. They're just in the back, and we updated them. That's it.
Thanks for that. I have two comments.
Yeah.
One, I'm interested in knowing from you as well as the other principals in the room, the updates to the handbook. How are you guys, I guess, socializing it to the students so that they're aware of what changes are being made?
Yeah, so we, speak for myself, every year the update process does include student input. And then we run it by the school council, and we kind of firm it up and present it here. At OMS, in the beginning of the school year, for our sort of opening of school year assemblies and team meetings with students, we present snippets of the handbook, the ones that really pertain to the students.
That they got to pay attention to?
Yes, yep.
Technology,
Yep.
offenses?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
All that stuff.
The ones that are important for them, yeah.
Okay. The other minor comment is just page numbers.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I
That would be
don't know why they're
helpful.
not in there, but they will
Thank
be.
you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess I have a pretty hard question. Any changes related to the recent event about airdropping?
Say it one more time, I'm sorry.
Any changes concerned relative to the recent event of airdropping?
Yeah, we didn't put anything specifically in our handbook for that event, but it would be covered under creating a school emergency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lindsay, any questions? All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to accept the Dr. Robert G. O'Donnell Middle School Student and Parent Handbook for the 2023-2024 school year?
Motion to accept the updated OMS handbook for the 2023-2024.
Second.
Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
All right. Thank you
very
very
much.
much. Thank you for,
Appreciate
to
it.
you and your staff for the work on that.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And last but not least, we have the Stoughton High School with Julie Miller. Thank you.
Hi there. Good evening. I'm Julie Miller. I'm the high school principal. For those of you who are new, welcome to the school committee. My previous colleagues, did not make too many significant changes other than the disciplinary that Mr. Colantonio has already indicated. A lot of small little changes, mostly updates to what we already do. We just are adding it into the language of the handbook. So we added a simple sentence about incomplete grades. We often have students who, for one reason or another, have been absent for a significant portion of the term, and so their grades aren't ready by the time the term report card ends, and so they're issued an incomplete instead of maybe a failing grade or another grade. And so we just want to added some language in there that those incomplete grades need to be made up by the middle, the progress report time of the next term, so that we have some expectations around students, so that they know that there is a time limit for them to get those things completed. And of course, we can work with students where that might not be possible. So we added some language about incomplete grades. We also added some changes to the qualifications for valedictorian and salutatorian. This is pretty standard across all high schools. We previously, in our handbook, students who were attending Stoughton High School for only 3 years could qualify for valedictorian and salutatorian in our previous current handbook. But we are moving to a 4-year. Students need to be at Stoughton High School for 4 years in order to be able to qualify for valedictorian and salutatorian. And I can anticipate the question of why. And that is because classes that students take at other high schools, not at Stoughton High School, don't count towards their GPA and class rank. That's pretty standard across high schools as well, because we can't vouch for the work that they've done or the rigor they've done in those courses. So since those classes don't count towards GPA and class rank, if a student were to come into the high school, even as their sophomore year, they could have all A's those 3 years, which may put them at an advantage for a student who's being counted with Stoughton High School classes for 4 years. And so in order to be able to be more equitable to our students who have a GPA that's accounting for all 4 years, we've extended that to must be in school for 4 years at Stoughton High School to qualify. Now, that certainly doesn't take away from their achievement. Students are going to achieve at high levels regardless, but for that title. We also added some expectations about dances and proms. These expectations are things we've been doing for years. For whatever reason, the language wasn't in there. So, for example, breathalyzers, we always have the breathalyzer available for all of our dances and proms. Students know about that. We do conduct searches of bags. If kids are bringing in bags, sometimes they'll be going to a friend's for overnight or whatnot, so they might have some large bags with them. We search those things, and some other expectations around behavior. We also added some language around the food delivery. Like Mr. Colantonio says, we have to keep up with the times. And now we have such things as Uber Eats and all those other food delivery mechanisms. And we have students that sometimes like to order food to the high school during the school day, and we can't accept that on their behalf. So just adding some language in there that they cannot have food delivered during the school day by food delivery service. Parents, guardians, caring adults, absolutely, but no Uber Eats. Or DoorDash, correct. I don't want to just single out one. We used to have a program at the high school called the Green Pass Program. This year, we've been piloting something called the Office Yellow and Red Pass Program. This is a program we put in place to try to help curtail those students who have real trouble staying in class or being in class or showing up to class, or just generally like to wander the halls. And so in order to encourage their attendance to class, we have been piloting this Office Yellow and Red Pass program, which basically, students that are frequently not where they're supposed to be or class cuts may be referred to the Office Yellow Pass, which they then pick up 2 passes first at the start of the school day that they can use as they need to. So they get 2 passes that allows them to use the bathroom and the nurse or whatnot. If they use up those 2 passes and the school day hasn't ended yet and they need to leave for another emergency reason, well, they just need to call the high school office for a hall monitor escort, and they can be escorted to and from. Students who are able to follow the expectations set in the handbook for 5 days can come off that Yellow Pass program, because the whole purpose of discipline is to try to get them back on the right path and doing the right things. And so they can earn their way off. However, if they are frequent flyers or they can't manage the Yellow Pass program, they may be referred to the Red Pass program, which means that instead of being able to go someplace on their own, they have to have the escort during the school day, and they can work their way off the Red Pass onto the Yellow and then off of that. And so we've been piloting this year. It has worked with some success, and we continue to make tweaks to it to make sure that our students are really where they need to be and learning and using their time wisely. We had some outdated, antiquated language in the handbook about test schedules. So we left most of the language in there, but removed the chart which assigned specific subjects to specific test days. That has become a significant challenge for teachers to adhere to with holidays, early releases, MCAS days, AP exams. We don't test on Mondays, so there's a lot of tweaks and whatnot that needs to happen. So we just loosened up by taking that schedule out, but that students still have the right to and opportunity to say to a teacher, I already have 3 exams that day. Can we make some arrangements so I can take your exam on a different day, or can you move the exam to a different day? So there's still that opportunity for them to have that dialogue and to advocate for themselves, which is another skill that we're working on at the high school level. In the athletic handbook, this year was the huge announcement that we had gotten rid of athletic fees, which is a huge bonus to our families. So I removed that language in the handbook that referred to athletic fees. Another wonderful update to technology was the invention of artificial intelligence. If you're not familiar with that, that's basically where you can type into the program any question that you've been asked, and it will give you however length of an answer you've asked it to do. So we've had unfortunate occurrences of students using that to write essays and answer prompts and those kinds of things. And so we added language in several places under cheating, illegal use of technology, and plagiarism to let our students know that the use of artificial intelligence is actually plagiarism. You're actually stealing somebody else's words, and you're expected to do your own work. So we added some expectations around there. And then, of course, the updates to short-term, long-term, and emergency rule removal, like Mr. Colantonio has already referred to, is all just updating to the current Mass General Law. And then, of course, the updates to your policies. We've just put the most recent versions into our handbook.
Questions or comments?
Hi. Question for the food delivery. You mentioned that there's exceptions to parents and relatives. How are you guys filtering through who's who?
Yep.
I could be a friend or whatnot and say I'm delivering food. Like, how do you decipher?
Well, they come to the front office. They usually give us their name and their parent and their child's name, and we can check that right there at the door, whether or not they're on their child's list.
So what about an uncle or, I don't know?
Yeah, we're not going to get too particular, but,
Okay.
we just don't want, we can tell usually between Uber Eats and what's the other one? DoorDash. Because the drivers usually come in, are identified in other ways.
Okay.
Yeah, they usually have a phone or an app, or they're referring to that information.
The other question I have is the yellow and red pass program.
Yes.
Once they're on the red pass program and they're still violating, what happens after that? Do they just stay on it until they start to adhere to the rules, or?
They could, but if it goes too long, then they're not learning anything, and so maybe we need to have some other interventions in place. Of course, all this time, we're talking to parents, partnering with them to try to help curb that behavior. There might be the introduction of an SDR, which is like a half day in the in-school suspension room where they sort of are removed and can do some work, but it's only for a portion of the day. And then, of course, just conversations and encouraging the appropriate behavior.
And who's administrating that? Is that the teachers, individual teachers, or is it the administration?
Our administration, so our deans,
Okay.
teachers may refer somebody because they notice a student is cutting their class or leaves their class for extended periods of time. They might refer a student to one of the deans, and then the deans are the ones that have the conversation with the students and put them on the pass.
Okay. And did you guys update your dress codes to
We
remove
did not.
pajamas?
We didn't have pajamas in our handbook. I don't know if you've noticed our high school
Okay,
kids, they
okay.
already wear them.
Okay, yeah.
They roll out of bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky they're there.
I see that a lot. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
No questions.
And Lindsay? All right, can I have a motion to approve the Stoughton High School student and parent handbook for the 2023-2024 school year?
Motion to accept the updated Stoughton High School handbook 2023 and 2024 year.
A second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Moving on is the next item, is the Stoughton High School HOSA out-of-state overnight trip approval request. Are you presenting that, Dr. Rob? Dr. Rob, all right.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. I'm going to have Ms. Miller here if you have any real tough questions. Our Stoughton High School host of Future Health Professionals Program is requesting to attend the International Leadership Conference this year. And the trip is from June 20th to 25th, 2023 in Dallas, Texas. So it's after the school year has ended. Our last day of school is June 14th, so this is after the school year has ended. At the conference, the students will represent Stoughton High School as they demonstrate scientific knowledge and career readiness skills, along with networking, learning leadership skills, and building confidence with traveling. And we have 6 students who have qualified to attend the International Leadership Conference along with their advisor. And so I request approval this evening so they can fundraise and get going to the
And just, it's school committee policy for us to approve any out-of-state trips, so this is why it's coming before us. We don't usually see normal field trips, but this is why we need to approve it. Does anyone have any questions about this field trip? Any comments?
Sounds like a really exciting opportunity.
It does, it's
Congrats to
just,
the students who qualified.
yes, I mean, I'm excited for them. Can I have a motion to approve the HOSA out-of-state overnight trip?
I move to approve the Stoughton High School HOSA out-of-state overnight field trip.
Can I have a second?
Second motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. And then moving on, our next order of business is the high school student activities checking account. And
Hi, guys.
is that you as well, Dr. Rob? All right,
Thank you,
Dr.
Mrs.
Rob.
Weiss. I appreciate that. So this one just bears a little bit of explanation. So right now, we have what's called a student activities account, and that's all the clubs and activities and sports. They all have accounts under the student activities account. And we did a reorganization of those accounts last year, and the committee approved a checking account limit of $25,000 in that checking account. So what happens is, as monies are collected, they go into what we would term a savings account. And then as the checking account is, the money is spent, writing checks, as that checking account is depleted, it's reimbursed from the savings account. And we put a limit of $25,000 as how much money could be in the checking account at any one time. As we've now used the system for this year, we're finding that it's taking longer for checks to clear. People don't always clear checks fast enough, or it's just working through the process, and the warrant process can take a little bit longer. And with the prom season coming up, with more expensive field trips like the overnight field trips, whether it's the one we just approved or the DECA field trip or some of the others, we're fearful that if we don't raise that limit from $25,000 to $50,000, we might be in a position of not being able to cover all the checks in the checkbook. So it doesn't really change anything from day to day. It just allows us that safety net. All of the financial checks and balances are still in place. We're not changing any of those. It just allows us all to just be a little more comfortable when we have to write those checks. If not everything clears and not everything goes through the warrant process in 2 or 3 weeks, we know we can cover them without any trouble. So we're just requesting to increase the minimum amount or maximum amount in the high school student activities checking account from $25,000 to $50,000.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Shoot.
How did you assess that 50,000 was an appropriate number and not 30,000 or 40,000? Did you do some sort of calculation in terms of the year?
I don't think we did a calculation for the year, but we looked ahead to the prom and the amount of money that we'd have to raise for the prom. They knew that this HOSA field trip was coming, and they also knew what they were spending for the DECA field trip. And so that's how they came up with the 50,000. But I don't
You
think it
added
was
all that
specific.
together and it
That's-
came up to approximately 50,000?
Wanted to make sure, and added a little bit to make sure that
Added a
we were
little bit, a
covered.
buffer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I had the same question, so thank you for asking it.
Armando, any questions, comments? No. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the increase of, in the high school student activities checking account from $25,000 to $50,000?
Motion to accept the high school student activities account increase from 25,000 to 50,000.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 28th school committee meeting. Does anyone have any amendments at this time?
No amendments for me.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 28th, 2023 school committee meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the March 28th school committee meeting.
Second?
Second the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And that concludes our new business. Moving on to old business. The FY '24 budget and articles. Armando, you will be getting a copy of those if you don't have them already. Do we have any, Dr. Rob, do you have any comments or
Sure.
anything to add to?
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss, members of the committee. The only thing I would add is that the Committee on Finance and Taxation voted to approve the budget that we amended and approved on March 21st at their meeting at the end of March. And so that approved budget has been put in the warrant for consideration at town meeting.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about the budget and articles this time? All right, moving on is the elementary school building project. Dr. Ebb, do you have anything to add on that?
The only thing I would add is on April 1st, we had another open house or community forum at the high school. We had a few people attend. There will be more of those coming up, so stay tuned. We are hoping to schedule a few more of those, particularly as we look at the different options and we look at, options of bringing us from 5 elementary schools to 4 and what that's going to look like. The school building committee is meeting tomorrow night, and they will be continuing their work. And just to know that there's more to come with that.
I will just add that the school building committee wanted me to kind of impress upon the committee that we have a lot to go through over the next few months. They will be coming here at our next meeting on April 25th to present, especially focusing on the option of consolidating from 5 schools to 4, which would involve redistricting, to present that to us, because ultimately, in early June, we need to vote on not only which design we want to choose from the 2 that the committee presents forward, but also whether that choice is going to involve that consolidation and redistricting. So there is the building committee tomorrow. There are more forums coming up. I know they're trying to have one in the middle of the May, presumably at the Wilkins. We'll see. They're all to be determined, but that there is going to be a lot more coming. We will get a lot more information. They wanted to know if you had any suggestions on communication. I know that we thought fairly widely for the April 1st forum, but if there's any pockets of groups that we are missing, I can bring that forward to them as certainly groups we should try to target. And if there's any topics that you would like to see them address with us when they present over the next couple of meetings, certainly let me know if there's anything you can think of right now. I know we have to bring you up to speed on that. I know you were on the facilities committee.
Yes.
So you are familiar with the South School and with the Wilkins to some extent, and the overall plan that the town had. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with where we stand right now.
I'm not sure where you stand.
All right. So at this point, we're in the preliminary study stage, and so they've presented us with 11 options, looking at 3 different sites. The current school site, the combined site with the South School with the fields behind it, and then what's known as the Line Lumber site off of Park Street. They've presented us with, the committee is looking at simply replacing or renovating the school as is, bringing it up to code as best they can, and then renovating and expanding it on its current site, building a larger school, or combined school behind there, on the combined site, sorry, and then building completely new construction on the Line Lumber site. So there's 11 options total right now. We will eventually get down to 2. The committee's starting to winnow down from that. But each of the options, other than simply bringing the South School up to code as best as possible, they all have a simple replacement option, so just replacing the South School population, so targeting a population of about 300 kids, or consolidating, so having kind of a double school, combining a double population and targeting about 600 kids for enrollment in that school. So we need to, eventually our decision in June, which option we're going to do. Are we going to simply replace the South School as is and keep it at that smaller thing? Or are we going to try to consolidate from 5 elementary schools in town to 4, which would involve redistricting and have that larger school? The new construction sites, the new construction all is able to accommodate both the smaller option and the larger option, which is really nice. And we'll be able to, we'll have you come to one of the community forums or one of the building committees as well, and they'll present the options that they're looking at to us too, so that you can get up to speed. But I know that you know that the South School needs some help. It's been loved to death. It needs to be have a lot of attention done to it. So there's a lot to take in, but we'll get you up to speed. And if you have any things that you would like us to touch on as we discuss this, please, you can let me know now, or certainly in our next meeting, April 25th, when they come. They'll be presenting more about this topic, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions about the South School or the new elementary school building project right now? You'll hear more next time, so.
Just looking forward to this time.
Yes.
Yeah, also looking forward to the presentation next week and really hoping we get some input and
Yes.
participation from the community, because I think it's just super important.
Yes, I think it's really important that we get a lot more input from the community. We'll have, as we continue on, I think we've had some really great discussions with the community so far. They've brought a lot of things that they're interested in, a lot of their concerns forward about finances, about the community feel, about, who is going to be affected. So this is all going to be great to factor in as we go forward with this. So that's all I have. There's a lot to talk about, but I don't know if that all makes sense. There's a lot of information to throw out, but we'll have more next time. Moving on, do we have any other matters, anything that the committee would like to? No, nothing else to bring forward? All right, our favorite part, can I have a motion? This concludes the agenda or the business matters of the meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thanks for your patience as I try to figure out how to do this.